Good morning. So today we do Greek civilization. We are focusing on Homer, who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. A couple of years ago, I taught the great books. So we read the Bible, Dante, Paradise Lost, the Iliad, and the Odyssey. And believe it or not, the students' favorite book was the Iliad. And this was written maybe 3,000 years ago by this Greek man living in a different time, different culture. Even today, Chinese teenagers think he's wonderful. Okay? So Homer is, I believe, the big bang of Greek civilization. All right, so let us summarize where we are. Okay, let's review where we are, okay? So remember that in the beginning, you have this city emerge in a major trade route, and it occupies a major river. And over time, what will happen is that as the city expands, it will create colonies along the river. And this will create warfare among the city-states because they're trying to control trade. Okay? And this leads to what we call open, cooperative competition. And as I keep on saying, this is a system that will lead to tremendous innovation. Okay, and this is what happened in China, in Mesopotamia, and in Egypt. But then over time, what will happen is that an empire will emerge, and this will create a bureaucracy. Okay? Now, bureaucracy has three major characteristics. The first is centralization. And because of centralization, you now have a monopoly. And so you have a decrease in competition, which means that the society is no longer innovative. Okay? Second is you have censorship, meaning that people are no longer free to express what they want. All information is centralized. The third is writing as propaganda. So writing is a system of control as opposed to a system of knowledge creation or self-expression. Okay? So these are the three characteristics of an empire. And this is true for all empires. And this is true for Mycenaean Greece. So remember, Mycenaean Greece is the empire that ruled the Aegean Sea during the Bronze Age. What's interesting, though, is when the Bronze Age collapsed, this system allowed for massive innovation, which gave us the Greeks. Okay, so let me explain why. First of all, you don't have centralization. What you now have is something called a polis. So you basically have a return to the system of open warfare. The polis means city-state in Greek. And it gives us the word politics. Why? Because these polises were at war with each other always. And because every citizen had to risk his life in a war, every citizen had the right to speak. Okay? So before every decision was made, all the citizens could debate. And so as a citizen, you were required to speak in front of others. And as a result, you, even though you could be a farmer, you had to educate yourself. You had to gain knowledge. You had to learn the art of speaking, what we call rhetoric. And this allowed for massive education and innovation in Greece. The polis, because everyone had to learn, they had to change the writing system from one of propaganda to one of knowledge seeking. So they changed the writing system. So during the Mycenaean age, the writing system is called Linear B. And Linear B is a hard system to learn, but that's the point. They want the writing system to be hard to learn because then only the elite can learn it. And that's what differentiates the elite from the people, right? But now that everyone has to learn, you need a more efficient writing system. And so they created a new system called the alphabet, which is the same system we use today because it's so effective, okay? So let me explain what the alphabet is. All right, so in the beginning, when we first started to write, we had pictograms, okay? So this is the sun, this is the moon, okay? Sun and moon. As you can see, these are just pictures of words, okay? That's the first step. But then people realize, you know what, we actually don't have to write down, we actually don't have to draw out the pictures, we can just use symbols, okay? So now you use symbols, like maybe an O and this, okay? This now becomes a sun, moon. And then people realize, you know what? There are actually a lot of words we cannot draw out. But if we make the symbol representing a sound as opposed to an idea, that'd be a lot more efficient, right? And so now you can create new words. This is the word now for monsoon. Because all you're doing is you're adding two sounds together, okay? And this is what I call a syllabary, okay? And so Linear B was a syllabary. And the Chinese system is what I call an ideogram. Ideogram, okay? So it's not representing sounds, it's representing ideas, all right? And then people realize, you know what? For it to be most efficient, to be most flexible, to be most versatile, we can just have the symbol represent a part of a sound. Okay, so rather than a complete sound, just a part of the sound. So now this becomes M, this becomes S. Okay, and so you now get the word sum. And this is where we get alphabet from. What the Greeks did was they added vowels to the system. Okay, and this is the most efficient writing system in the world. It's really easy to learn, as you know, from English class, as opposed to Chinese, which is very hard to learn. Okay, so now you have the alphabet, which increases literacy and learning throughout the Greek world. For entertainment, what they did was they invited bards, poets, to come and give recitals, to talk about the legends of the past. And this gave rise to the most famous poet of that time named Homer. And we will discuss Homer today, okay? And so in a centralized system, Homer could not have arisen because Homer would have been a propagandist. But now in this decentralized system where everyone is looking for entertainment, for knowledge, Homer can arise. And Homer will be the greatest poet of Greek civilization, and he's considered to be the father of Greek civilization, okay? So we will discuss Homer today. And Homer is famous because he wrote two books, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Actually, he didn't write the books, he recited the poetry, and then his students wrote it down because he himself was illiterate. And we also think he was blind, okay? So the Iliad and the Odyssey are about the Trojan